A'udhu billahi minash shaitani rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillah. Thank you very much for being invited here today to speak to you. It's a great honour. And it's also a hard act to follow, seeing all these wonderful industrious sisters who are so engaged within the community and carrying out such wonderful work. I want to talk to you about two areas of my work today. Firstly, I'm going to talk about the Certificate in Muslim Chaplaincy programme, and then I'm going to talk about my role as a trustee within the Convert Muslim Foundation. Right, could you put the Certificate Muslim slides up, please? The next one. All right, okay. I've got that now, thank you. I work at Markfield Institute of Higher Education, which is based at the Islamic Foundation in the village of Markfield in Leicestershire. Markfield Institute has been running for the past 20 years and has been supported by the Islamic Foundation through its establishment. The chaplaincy programme has been running since 2003. It was started by Professor Atola Siddiqui, rahimahullah, who works very hard within the interfaith sector. He was inspired by the chaplaincy programmes that he saw the Christians had put in place within the hospitals, within the prisons, and within higher education. And he thought that he could adapt this model and introduce specific training so that Muslims could benefit from the services that chaplains can provide. A lot of people are not really sure about chaplaincy, say, well, isn't that a Christian thing? Well, actually, it's very much an Islamic thing, it's very much a Jewish thing, it's very much a Hindu thing, it's very much a part of every faith. The actual term chaplaincy, it comes from a lovely story about St. Martin of Tours, who in the 4th century was a Roman soldier. Martin was out on his horse, performing his duties as a soldier, when he came across a beggar freezing in the cold. So what Martin did when he saw this beggar was to take his sword and to slice the cloak in half. He gave half of his cloak to the beggar to keep him warm, and he kept the remainder of the cloak for himself. Now, the reason that he didn't give the whole cloak to the beggar was, of course, that he would have been cold. And if he just walked past and left the beggar, then the beggar would have probably frozen to death. So after that event, at night, Martin saw Jesus in a dream, who told him that Martin had clothed him. And this very much reminds me of a hadith that you're probably all familiar with, where someone is reported, where I think it's Bukhari is reported to have narrated this hadith about how if we visit the sick, then we will find Allah with us. If we feed the hungry, then we will find Allah with us. If we give water to the thirsty, then that's where we will find Allah. So we're thinking that, you know, when we see poor, needy people in distress, that it's our role to support and help them, because not only will we be fulfilling our imanah with God, that we will also be helping these people. Pastoral care is a part of all the main faith traditions, and some Jewish scholars have said that actually chaplaincy goes back much further than this 4th century idea that comes from St. Martin of Tours, and that in fact it can be found in the story of Abraham. Abraham, following his circumcision, was in great pain, but God came to him. He didn't take away the pain. He was with him, he was beside him, he was there to support him. So when we see chaplaincy, chaplaincy is not about giving people solutions to their problems. It is not counselling. We're not providing therapeutic intervention. We're walking alongside somebody, supporting them in their time of need, so that when they are at their most vulnerable, we're there to share that suffering with them and to help to alleviate that by making them know that they're not alone, that there's somebody with them. And we're not just there for the sort of difficult times in life, we're also there to share joy. People want to share their happy moments, the beautiful things of life. They don't want to keep that necessarily to themselves either. We have a hadith within Islam that says that we're all shepherds. We each have our flock and we're each responsible for looking after that flock. So husbands are sort of the shepherd of their family, wives are shepherding around with their children and relatives. And so we each have our own responsibility to engage within pastoral care. So what is exactly a chaplain? We have an actual definition here. It can be a clergy person, and by that we mean it could be an imam, it could be a rabbi, it could be a priest, who's commissioned by a faith group or organisation to provide pastoral services in an institution, organisation or governmental entity. Chaplaincy refers to the general activity performed by a chaplain, which may include this crisis ministry, counselling, sacraments, worship, education, help in ethical decision-making, staff support, clergy contact, and community or church coordination. So as Muslims, we look to our own faith tradition, we look to the... So if we look within our faith, we can see that we're already provided with a range of spiritual tools which can help us in a chaplaincy profession. We have Imam, which is a strong belief in God, and it provides a meaning and purpose in life. If we think about our meaning and purpose in life, we're all here because Allah wants us to be here. There's no one on this earth who God does not intend to be here. So part of our life journey and our challenge within life is to find out what that special purpose is. We all have a unique purpose that nobody else has. So we have to try and find out through the various activities that we engage with, through prayer and through dua, to ask Allah what this special purpose is that we have. We're all unique, and nobody else is going to have this special gift that you have that nobody else will have in exactly the same way. So we really have to try to find out what it is that Allah is intending for us to do. We all have a different contribution to make. Some people are very joyful and they can spread joy. Other people can spread laughter. Other people are very good at organising things. Other people have got sort of political skills. So we've all got our own skills and our own value. And no matter which background we come from, whether we're black or white, yellow, whatever colour we are, whichever part of the world we are, we're all meant to be here, and we're all meant to kind of find our higher purpose in life and to achieve that through service to Allah. So here we have a range of skills. We are stewards of the earth, and we are servants of God. And as shepherds, we all have our own flock to look after, to serve. We have Rahmah and Raja, hope. So we need to be able to instill mercy and hope in God's mercy, and to be able to spread that knowledge to other people. One of the most important things we have is shukr, which is gratitude. When we have gratitude to Allah and to people, our lives will flourish and we will prosper. With tawakkul, the power of God becomes immense, and it manifests itself. When we put our trust in Allah, we are like birds that go out in the morning who return knowing that Allah will fed them and that they will not want for anything. We have tawbah, which is forgiveness, and we all make mistakes, and we know that Allah, if we are genuine in our repentance, that He will forgive us. We have mizan, which is a balance, so that we have balance between our heart, mind and body. We look after our heart with our spiritual activities. We look after our mind, we feed it with education. We ask Allah to increase us in knowledge so that we are learning throughout our lives. We have Islah, reformation and reconciliation. We have guidance, and we aim to lead a pure and good life. So as chaplains, what are we doing? We are concentrating on theological and spiritual adab. We're caring for yourself and caring for each other. The most important person in a chaplaincy encounter is yourself, because unless you have a strong iman, a strong faith, and look after yourself well physically and mentally, you're not going to be able to support anybody else that needs your help. So one of the things that chaplains are doing is they're transmitting spiritual strength. You're meeting people in often challenging situations. They're going through all sorts of crises in their life. So you're the person that's going to be a bridge between them and Allah, and helping to sustain them through their time of difficulty, and walking alongside them in whatever challenge they face, so that they know that they are not alone. Chaplains and Muslim chaplains are there to serve people of different faiths and those of no faith. We don't differentiate. Human need is human need. We don't say that I'm a Muslim chaplain, I can only help Muslims. No, we look at each person as a spark of divinity, of a creation of Allah, and somebody who is worthy of our time, is worthy of our attention, and we should give them our loving, compassionate care and support. In chaplaincy, the chaplaincy covers now many sectors. You'll find it in football clubs, in Canary Wharf. There's a very established chaplaincy. It's very well established within the prison service, within the hospitals, and within universities and education. But it covers a wide range of fields. So that you can even, for example, find chaplains who work on the barges on the canals, looking after people who live alongside and on the rivers. So what are the key skills that a chaplain needs? They are presence, listening, connection, reflection and confidence. In terms of listening, we see a prophetic model that is dynamic. The Prophet, peace be upon him, would always listen attentively and make that person feel as though they were the most valued person in the world. His whole body would turn towards the person who he was addressing. There would be no distractions. His attention would be solely focused on that. And he wouldn't stop giving them attention and listening to their needs and supporting and transmitting his spiritual barakah to them until he was satisfied that they had taken what that they needed. There's an example of him being led by a slave girl through the market, and she took his hand and walked with him through the market, and he didn't leave her until she was satisfied with what he had to give and to share with her. Presence is another thing that is very important, and you may think, well, these are just straightforward things, anybody can listen. Well, it's not that easy, because you can see even in this crowd there are people who are flicking through their phones, they're walking around, they're looking at other people, they're perhaps whispering to their neighbour. So they're not actively listening. To actively listen, you actually pay attention to the person who's speaking to you. You're not distracted by other things, you're not looking at your watch, not wandering over here or over there. So these are skills that we try to develop with our students to make sure that they can be people who can provide hidayah, who can provide guidance when they're in their chaplaincy capacity. So the actual course itself, it was established in 2003 with support from Christian chaplains. There are many Christian chaplains who are still in contact with us. They come regularly to the course, and we have a number on our board who have input into the design and the continuation and the actual syllabus. So this particular course is designed to meet specific needs of Muslims, so it has a lot of Islamic input. so that when we come to help our Muslim communities, we're able to offer them the support, the guidance from the Sunnah, from the Quran, from the direct example of Prophet. So the course was established in 2003 at a time when there were not many paid Muslim chaplains in the UK. They were mainly at this time what they called visiting ministers, and they would mainly operate on a voluntary basis. Now things are changing. There is increased professionalisation, there's a career structure. Many imams are finding that while they're very poorly paid with working within the masjid, they can actually find a more fulfilling career within chaplaincy because they have a career structure, they have recognition, they have the chance for promotion. And many of our students have gone from being volunteers in chaplaincy sectors and are now managing multi-faith teams of their own, so that they are commanding people of all different faiths in their chaplaincy team and giving direction and support and developing a whole range of services that meet the needs of the client group that they're trying to serve. So our students are all sent out on a placement, and the placement is designed to see which particular sector they would like to work in. So they primarily go into the NHS settings or into hospices, they go into the prison system, and they also go into universities. And the purpose of this is to give them direct practical experience. They're able to see what sort of skills they need to develop. They're able to shadow people, to work with people of different faiths, to learn how different chaplains operate, the skills that they develop, and to see exactly what chaplaincy involves. So they shadow a chaplain, they observe and learn, they work in a supportive environment, and they experience growth. They're taken out of their comfort zone. Some of them go into very challenging situations. I had a group of sisters who went to Rampton, which is one of the high secure hospitals. There are 3 high secure hospitals in the UK. There's Brampton, Ashworth and Broadmoor. So they're working with very challenging sets of patients who are in these settings because they've usually committed a crime and they're usually considered too dangerous or a danger to themselves to be in a normal prison setting. So we encourage sisters particularly to go into, well, I encourage sisters particularly to, if they feel able to go and work within the prison setting. And there's 2 reasons for this. Firstly, because there's a shortage of Muslim women chaplains, and there's a shortage of Muslim women chaplains in the prison sector. So Muslim women have gone from the course into male prisons, into female prisons, and have done extremely well. A lot of them can continue to volunteer, some of them get paid positions, and are able to continue and flourish and develop their chaplaincy careers. So while they're on their placement, they will complete a reflective journal, and they will detail what they've learned, who they've been with, what sort of cases that they've encountered, how they've dealt with those cases. They will think about, reflect on what they need to learn, what they have learnt, and all these sorts of things, and then they'll put it into a journal, and this will be written up into reports at the end of their placement. So throughout the chaplaincy course, they will undertake a number of written assignments to increase their theoretical and written awareness of chaplaincy. And of course, within the profession, they need to learn how to write reports and undertake assignments so that they can articulate their findings and be able to present these to the various bodies within the institution which they're working. Because as chaplains, when they have a full-time paid position, they are often embedded within an organisation, and they work at the grassroots level with the client group. but they're also working with all the hierarchies within an institution. So they've been working with the highest levels of management right down to the grassroots. So they need to be able to develop these skills and capabilities so that they can present themselves in a professional manner. So the placement also gives them an opportunity for networking and employment. They're introduced to other chaplains who can perhaps provide them with further training opportunities or point them in the direction of where job vacancies are. So they're also sort of building their own networking competencies and capabilities. And they work in multi-faith settings. So as part of a diverse society, as the sister was mentioning previously, we don't want one-dimensional people. We need people who can understand the ways of thinking of other cultures. And it's in our diversity that we can grow and develop, and we can expand creatively as a society. If we were all the same and we all thought the same, we wouldn't have any unique contributions to offer. But we often want to listen and look at the person who disagrees with us and say exactly what sort of unique contribution and creative example are they providing, something that we can utilise. So, if any of you would like to apply for the course, you're more than welcome. It runs each year from February to October. The next intake will be February 2024. And if you wish to apply, you're more than welcome. I'm delighted to see all of you or any of you. And you can apply through our website. There's an application form there. Thank you. Afternoon is as my role as a trustee with the Convert Muslim Foundation. This is a relatively new organisation that's been running for the past few years, but it's built on a history of substantial work and support for people who've embraced Islam in the UK. And here you can see the picture of Sister Batul Al-Toma, who's the founder and CEO of the organisation. And she has been actively engaged in supporting people who embraced Islam over the past 30 years in the UK. The term convert always raises hackles. People say they don't like it, so what do they want to use instead? Well, maybe it could be a revert, or you could be a new Muslim. But when you've been a Muslim for 20 or 30 years, are you still new? And all these sort of categories and pigeonholing and putting them in boxes is not really helpful, because when you look at the example of the first Muslims, the Sahaba, and Khadija radiallahu anha, you realise that they were never referred to as converts, they were always just Muslims. So by creating this special category, it's not always helpful because it can be a bit divisive. But in another sense, because converts have often a very specific set of needs that may be in some ways different from people who are born into the faith, they don't necessarily have that extended family network around them, they don't have support systems, they may be, not always, but they may be facing hostility and stigma from their families, from their work communities. And they do need that extra help and support. So this is a group of, as you can see, quite diverse group of Muslims who are gathered in our mosque at the Islamic Foundation for one of the programs that we have organised. And there in the middle you can see our Sister Batul. So what exactly do we do at the Convert Muslim Foundation? Well, we provide convert care and advocacy. We're in touch with lots of Muslim organisations so that we can find ways to give assistance and support to people who are embracing Islam, to try and make their journeys more comfortable. There's a great a great sort of furore and celebration every time somebody embraces Islam. And people are always citing the fact that we're supposed to be the fastest growing religion in the world. But what they don't mention is the amount of people who embrace Islam and then lapse or leave the faith because they don't find the support that they need. So this is one of the most important things, is support after taking the Shahada, so that people find a place where they feel comfortable. A lot of converts, they're a bit like toddlers really, because they're very new to everything and they don't quite understand how things are. So they meet one person and they think Islam is reflected within a Salafi orientation to Islam, or they meet another person and they think Islam is reflected within a sort of Sufi interpretation, or Baralvi or Deobandi, or whoever they happen to come into contact with. So they're not often really clued up about who believes what and why they believe it, and they may go and jump from sort of one type of interpretation of Islam to another because they're trying to find a place where they feel comfortable and where they can fit in. And often they will jump in at the deep end, and before you know it, they're sort of all in black, wearing a niqab, everything's haram, and all the things that they used to do, they no longer do. So it sometimes takes education and time and patience and support for them to realise that there are many ways of being Muslim. And the aim is not necessarily to be a particular type of Muslim, but to develop our faith and to develop closeness and trust and awareness and a love of Allah. So we're involved in education and training. Every year we have one scholarship to Loughborough University, and this year I'm hoping that a very special person will be going on this scholarship. This person used to write to me when he was serving a prison sentence, and he used the time very productively when he was in prison. He's taken an Open University degree, he's memorised the Quran, he's learned Hadith, he's learned lots and lots of different sources of education within Islam, and he's really developed himself. So inshallah, we hope that our brother Abdul Haq will be off to Qatar in September to benefit from 9 months of study at the university there. It's a fully comprehensive scholarship. It takes care of the flights, the accommodation, the food, the living expenses, and students are taken to the various social and cultural activities in Qatar itself, and some of them also get the chance to go off and perform. To celebrate successes where they exist and to publicise them and to let people know that Islam has a very, very long history, going back over 1,000 years within the UK. And it's not a recent import, it's embedded into the heart and structure, literally embedded into the heart and structure of the UK. If you look at Gothic architecture, for example, you will see that the Gothic arches and design were taken from Islamic architecture. And there are many, many examples of Arabic words that filtered into the into the English language, and you can see through trade and exchanges that it has been a very, very important aspect of British culture. But this is all played down. People don't necessarily want you to appreciate and realise it. Recent reports that have been written include Kurd conversion to Islam in prison and its aftermath, Inside Out, supporting Muslims in prison and beyond, looking at what sort of support services are available and what needs to be developed to counteract the ever-growing number of Muslims who are incarcerated. At the moment, we comprise around 5 or 6% of the UK population, but we're running at around 18% of the prison population. In some prisons, I went to Leicester prison last week, and the population of Muslims was 30% of the prisoners. In some prisons in London, it's 50%. We don't want to reach the stage which France has, where 90% of their prison population is Muslim. And the current advisor to the government's prison service, Athsham Ali, predicts that within the next 10 years, 50% of the prison population in the UK will be Muslim. So it's a time for us to wake up and to take notice and to realise that we need to do something as a community to support our young people, to stop them and help them when they are in trouble, and to support them to return their lives to a productive state. That is the cover of the book that Matthew has recently produced along with his colleagues. That's one of the earlier reports that we've written, and that's an example of the convert care survey that I mentioned earlier. So one of the things that the tool is very, very good at doing is popping off abroad, and she takes parties of converts to interesting places that will give them a grounding in Islam, but will also help them appreciate how Islam operates in other cultures, and to recognise the importance of their faith in a historical and contemporary cultural context. So recently, I think it was February, she took a party of 45 Muslim converts to Umrah, and that's the advertisement for that. There they are, in all their glory. Now this is another interesting project that was undertaken. This was an idea of the caravan of converts. So people could pick up the trail along the way, and as you can see, they started off from Carrick in the north, and they made their way all the way up to an area where Lady Evelyn Cobbold was buried, and she was thought to be the first British woman to perform Hajj, and she performed that, I think it was in 1930 something, 3 or 6. Okay. So this is just to detail her journey. And the group of converts, they went up there and they wanted to give their salams and perform some prayers so that she would increase the recognition and awareness of her life and the contribution that she made. And she also wrote a book which is detailed there, which is called Picturesque. There they are, trekking through the Scottish Highlands. And this is Evelyn Cobbold and her husband and child. And they finally reached the grave of Lady Evelyn Cobbold and prepared to make some prayers and think about the Muslim Convert Foundation relies on donations and help, so if anybody's interested in supporting, who would like to become a trustee or to work within the organisation or to donate funds, please get in touch. We're always pleased to hear from you. Thank you for listening, and I hope that some of it's been interesting and that you have a few things to think about and take away with you. Thank you very much for inviting me here today, and may Allah bless you, may Allah give you hidayah, may Allah give us tawfiq, may He always be with us and be close to our hearts, and may we always remember Him in our daily lives, and may we die as Muslims. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.